Welcome to Retail Retold, the stories behind how that store landed in your neighborhood. I'm Chris Ressa, in conversation with the people and stories shaping retail and real estate. Brought to you by DLC. Welcome to Retail Retold, everyone. Today I am joined by Tom Onder. Tom is an attorney at Stark & Stark. I am excited for him to be here. We just played some golf a few weeks ago. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. You shot pretty well, better than me. So, you'll keep getting invited to go out on foursome stuff.
There you go. So, Tom, tell a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I work for I'm a partner at Stark & Stark, and we're a law firm based in Princeton, New Jersey. And my practice, I actually chair our shopping center and retail development group. We do a lot of work for landlords, owners, property managers, for shopping centers, warehouse, commercial, multifamily, basically in the New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania region. And then myself, I've got a little bit of a specialty in bankruptcy. I was before I started practicing 20 years ago, right out of law school, I got a bankruptcy clerkship with a couple judges. And I've kind of parlayed that over the last, 2 decades now. One of the things I put out, which I think you and some other folks have seen, is we put out a watch list of retailers to watch out for who may be filing for bankruptcy. Done it for probably about like the last maybe like 7-8 years or so, and a lot of our owners, developers, and stuff, they find it very useful to kind of see who could be filing. When you're trying to do lease negotiations or renewals and things like that. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to file, but it's kind of a watch list to kind of keep an eye out for. Our group, we've got about 25 attorneys that do everything from on the transactional side, buying and selling of properties. My partner, Dee Kelly, she heads that side of the group. We do a lot of work together. She does 1031 exchanges. I do a little bit of leasing. Any kind of transactional stuff we do. And then on my side, besides the leasing and some of the bankruptcy, I also, I'd say about 60% of my practice is litigation, enforcement, helping owners, developers, and landlords when they got like a problem tenant or a problem issue, going into court and representing them. I love going into court. I'm looking forward now that courts are finally opening up where you can go back in and actually, see a judge and get justice for the good guys. So,
Yeah. Well, speaking of bankruptcy, we just had some news this morning on Regal. Have you followed that one at all? Do you have any insights on that one?
yeah. So it's funny. It's so Regal and a lot of the other, not a lot. There's not.
And by the way, they didn't file. There was just news that they're preparing to file.
Yeah. And so the question is, are they actually going to file, or are they using this as a tactic? Because a couple of weeks ago, there was a couple other landlords that came out and said like, hey, we're going to file. And so far they have. Myself, I'm actually, my prognostication, is that there actually isn't going to be a lot, if any, retail bankruptcy filings for the rest of the year. I just think that in terms of the economy, things seem to be getting better. With Congress recently, going to pump a bunch more money into the economy, even though rates are still high and gas prices are still high or coming down. I think generally you're going to see an avoidance of bankruptcies, retail ones through the end of the year. Regal may go just because it's such a tough market that they and AMC and the other, movie theaters are in. People just aren't coming back as much as everybody wanted to for things like theaters. It might get back there eventually, but the fact that like you or I can stream stuff, online and get it whenever we want, I think it's changing the atmosphere of the whole like concept of the movies and stuff. So I could see them going before the end of the year, but I just don't think you're going to see many other retailers go this year and even, possibly into next year. But I do see something hidden probably maybe spring or so next year, of a lot of retailers who really need to downsize and use the bankruptcy process to get rid of a bunch of leases. So, like, one area that we're concerned with and watching is if you have a franchisee with, say, 30 or 40, let's just use say they got 30 or 40 Wendy's, okay, or Taco, or whatever it is. They may have a couple of those locations, more than a couple, that they need to get rid of or they need to dump because they're bad leases, or the landlord won't work with them or something like that. Or the labor, they just too much for the labor shortage. An easy way to get rid of those leases, if there's a lot of them that they've got, is to go into a bankruptcy and also to, restructure, debt and stuff. So, but again, we don't, me and my team, we just don't think that there's going to be many filings until, or if any, really on the retail side, larger ones until maybe like second quarter next year, which is it's good for owners and developers and stuff because they can get into leases, they could go into negotiations knowing like, that they're not going to have to necessarily worry about it, but it's something now at least, but it's something they've got to keep their eye on.
Great. Yeah. I think yeah, the rest of this year probably, my take is it's going to be modest. You're not going to see many, but could have a spike. We've had so few next year. That seems to be a prevailing sentiment. I'm curious to see what happens with the Eagles scenario. So we will
With the
see.
movie thing, it's funny. It's like, I mean, when was the last time? Have you been going to the movies or?
Not regularly, no.
Yeah, and it's like, me, it's like, I mean, there's some stuff I wanted to see, but it's like, I, do I just wait for it to come, or I can watch it on the TV, with my family? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this though. For me, it's not a function of the that versus streaming. I I still enjoy a theater experience. I think for me, it's a little bit more the stage of life with my kids and it
Yeah.
being, you know, we'll see. I think like my kids, like just because of COVID, 3 and 5, they went to their second movie ever this summer.
Uh,
So, and they loved it.
okay.
And it was recliners and they got popcorn. And I think as
What'd you guys see?
I didn't go.
Oh,
Ugh,
okay.
I don't even know what they saw in
Yeah.
the theater. Some kids movie, but I think that in the winter when there's less to do, I could see us going to the theaters more, for the way my wife and I have been like looking at it is like, stuck inside for so long. Like we want the kids outside. Not and that's just another inside. So as it relates to activities. So we've been doing more outside activities from an entertainment perspective, but
Okay.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Uh, so I want to take you to a section we call Clear the Air.
Sure.
I got 3 questions for you. You ready?
I'm set.
All right. Question 1. What is one skill you don't possess but wish you did?
Mindfulness. So,
Mindfulness.
yeah. So I, about 10 years ago or so, I started doing yoga. And I started it because a buddy of mine had a heart attack. And he was in much better shape than I was. Probably still is in much better shape than I am. But it really scared me. It freaked me out. I was like, man, I got to do something. And I kept hearing it like the whole like yoga thing was really good for you, like low impact and everything like that. So I started doing it and I really enjoy it. And what I like about it is the studio that I used to go to before the pandemic hit. It was really a very rigorous workout. And then at the end, they would do like the meditation for like 10 minutes or so. And so I'm really into like, sweat and stuff like that. So you do the hour of that, and it was really intense stuff. And then you lay in there for like, 5, 10 minutes or so, and you're supposed to be mindful and everything. And I just can't do it. I just start either laughing or like, so everybody be quiet. And you hear me like, and then I'm like trying to like not to laugh and stuff. So it's like that's one thing I can't I for some reason I can't. I mean, I can like chill out and focus and stuff, but I just can't. And I wish I could. I wish I could get into that like mindfulness, meditative state. My wife can do it. A whole bunch of people I know can do it. I just have a really hard time getting that meditative state. I either start laughing or start thinking about something funny or something like that. So
I think you need to you need to practice meditating outside of the workouts scene. You might be able to do it. That's my take.
I'll take that piece of advice.
Yeah. Question: download Headspace.
Headspace. Okay,
Yeah, try it out for a week.
writing it down. Headspace. Okay. You always have some really good apps and stuff. I gotta say.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, question 2. When is the last time you tried something for the first time?
This last summer, I decided that I was going to replace the windows in my 100-year-old garage myself. I have successfully done
Wow.
that. I had at the beginning of like the very beginning of spring, I had a guy come out to give me an estimate on the windows in
It was
my
a
garage.
billion dollars. It was
Yeah,
$1 billion.
yeah. I got a Craftsman home from like it's 100 years old home, and we have a separate detached garage, and it's 100 years old. It's in great shape and stuff, and it's big. The guy comes out, and I live in Princeton, and I call it the Princeton tax. As soon as you get a contractor that comes out that doesn't know you, they throw on the Princeton tax. And this guy, he sees my house thinking it's the windows in the house that I want. We have a lot of windows. I'm like, no, 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 those have been done. I said, it's just these 3 windows I got in the garage. And he quotes me. He's like, yeah, he's like, I can get this done for like $8,000. I'm like, please leave my yard before I throw you out. I was so angry. I was like, I cannot believe this guy thought that he could like you pull this over on me. So like I went online and my wife sees me come in from the backyard. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, hold on. Like go online and I'm like, how to like replace windows yourself. And I took a look at like 2 or 3 different videos and it's a process. You gotta have a plan for it and stuff. You gotta take the windows out of the casing. And I was afraid I was gonna break the casing because things are 100 years old. But I successfully did it. And it was a lot of fun. It took a long time to just because there's a process to it. You got to take the glazing out, take the windows out, and the windows that I got there's 6 panes in each of the windows. So it's like taking these little things, and it's 100-year-old window. So there's some panes I'm breaking and stuff, but yeah, I got it done, and it was a lot of fun. So
Great.
yeah.
Okay. Last question. What is one thing most people agree with, but you do not?
I have been hearing lately people say that more people are more productive at home and then being able than working in the office and stuff. And I absolutely, for the most part, do not agree with that. I'm all for doing the hybrid, working at home, coming in the office and stuff. But there's nothing I think that replaces the ability to be able to collaborate with people, or also to concentrate. I mean, when was the last time like you're on a Zoom call and you got somebody where like their dog's running through, or like they don't got the lighting or something like that? And I mean, there's some people who can totally work at home. Like my wife is one of those people. She's an attorney as well, and she can really focus. But I think that generally there's a lot of either mistakes, clerical errors, or things that occur that it's not as productive as people. As I think generally people are saying that it is.
Well, it's certainly a hot topic right now.
Yeah,
So it is super hot topic. At DLC, we're hybrid. We're giving people both. So, uh,
I'm for a hybrid. Like my paralegals do a great job. And if they're working at home and coming in, but there's nothing to beat that real like interaction where you can talk to somebody, ask them a question, as opposed to jumping on like a Zoom or something like that. So
okay. All right. Appreciate you sharing that with us and us getting to know you a little bit better, Tom. I want to take us to the meat of the show. And today it is 3 things we are concerned we are wrong about for 2023.
sure. So first one, I'll say, well, I talked earlier about this, about we're talking about bankruptcies, back and forth and everything like that. And one of the concerns that I have is I made the prediction, like no retail bankruptcies through the end of this year and probably nothing really into 2023, maybe like midway through or so. My concern is that I'm wrong on that. And there is just a rash of retail bankruptcies towards the end of this year. And one of the triggers would be is if the back to school sales are not as high as we expect them to be, because in our industry, the two big kind of mile markers to see how everybody's doing is back to school and the holiday season. And if one of those markers is off, it's a good tell of how things are going to go necessarily with retailers. So what happens if back to school is not as good as what everybody says, or interest rates get higher, or gas prices which have been taking a nice downturn lately. Oh, I still hope they're going to drop another 50 cents, um turn around. So that's a concern. With the tight labor market right now, with inflation, issues like that, I'm concerned that my more of a I wouldn't say a rosy outlook. I think I'm a positive person generally, but I'm also with a dash of reality with it. That you could have a rash of retail bankruptcies.
Yeah, always a concern. I, you know, usually back to school is a good predictor for the holiday season. And, the one, how much is inflation? Who knows? But I think the one good thing is, you know, the US Census Bureau put out retail sales for uh 2 days ago, and sales in July of 22 were 10.3% higher than July of 21, and they were 9.2% higher the period from May 22 to through July 22 comparative to the same period in um 21. So I'm feeling pretty good about back to school. What portion of that is inflation versus, actual growth? Uh, We'll see, but there's still margin in there as price that even through inflation. So uh
My bigger concern is, so like the PPP money's gone, the monies that the government gave folks to pretty much get us through, the 2 years of the pandemic is gone. So what happens with consumer savings that they've had? When is it going to run out? And do we necessarily need to be concerned about it? Like you just don't know. And so it's like, if you're looking for what a concern is, where you
yeah.
know I could be wrong. It could be the bankruptcy side. I'm hoping that it's not, and that it's that for owners, developers, and stuff like that, that we actually avoid a recession, or we get through a recession without it necessarily being a recession. But that's my concern. Of it could be wrong. Yeah.
Yep. So my first one is that I'm I'm wrong about uh rents in retail, and I think they're going to rise, but I'm concerned that they're actually going to skyrocket, because then I've missed out on some acquisition opportunities, and we have at DLC. And so with inflation as it is, and the lack of supply of new construction and all this occupancy, rents have ticked up, and sellers are still pretty bullish in retail. So I'm concerned that the rents don't go like this, but they go like this over the next couple of years, and that I've missed a huge window. So we're still buying, but and we're I think we're prudent and aggressive where we need to be in buying. But I think there's a case to be made for skyrocketing rents. It's hard to underwrite that, but I'm, given what I wouldn't want to miss that gravy train, and we're buying, so we wouldn't totally miss it. But I think anyone, if they thought rents were gonna skyrocket, they'd be acquiring more. So I'll
Yeah,
keep.
it's dependent on like what the asset class is. So
Yeah,
like on the retail side, I think there is a real concern, with that. I mean, your podcast a couple months ago about the store one
yeah,
with bricks and mortar. Like, yeah, everybody thought it was not gonna that you were gonna see all these, closings in shopping centers, things like that. And it's like people want to go out, people want to do stuff. And, there are, whether with you guys over at, your company or other folks, um, there's a lot more demand than I think anybody ever thought that there was going to be, even, coming out of this, out of the pandemic.
yeah.
So I think there's a concern that they could rise higher. The flip side of that is, do the other asset classes keep it tamped down? Like, is office, is it, what's going to happen with office? Like I was reading today that like in New York City, just the vacancy rates are huge. Like, does it do now after Labor Day? Are more people going to be coming back to the office for like the 3.5 days a week or so where it stops that vacancy rate? Or are you going to see, um, are you going to see just so many
Chronic vacancy.
and they don't need, so like for us, we're currently in the process. We're going to be moving our space. We've been developing a new space. We're going over to the Hamilton train station area, which for me is going to be great. I'll be shooting in New York, shooting in Philadelphia. But we've just from our own efficiency side of things, not needing as many file storage rooms and things like that, not needing as many paralegal cubicles, we were able to reduce our space by about to like 60% of what our current footprint is. And those negotiations started prior to the pandemic. So, will that asset class kind of keep down other areas of the economy so there isn't going to be runaway rents on the retail side? I don't know, but I do think that is a concern, and it's a valid concern about, are the how high are the rents can go, and are you missing out on this opportunity? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Number two. What is the number two thing you are concerned you're wrong about?
sure. Um, so I did at start of this, I was talking about how like a portion of my practice is on the litigation side, and like I'm happy to get back in the court and be able to talk to judges, and fight a good fight for folks. One of the reasons I like that is because when you're trying, at the end of the day, nobody wants you or any of my other, I got any other clients, nobody wants to just be paying an attorney to fight and argue. You want them to get a solution for you. And one of the ways that happens is, when you're down in court with another side, you wind up figuring out a settlement like on the courthouse steps or prior to when you've got your most leverage possible on the other side. Not been able to do that for the last 2 years. There's been all these Zoom calls, things get delayed. How many issues have you guys had or other, landlords or owners had where it's like their attorney's like, listen, I don't know what to tell you, like the other side's not moving. I can't get a hearing date to move this. And you're just kind of stuck in this limbo. Well, things are finally starting to move now. And we're starting to get back in the court and stuff, being able to get in front of, judges and move things and get the enforcement side of it. My concern is what happens if that stops or there's another delay, like an issue like where another variant comes up to put the skids on it, with the pandemic. Like the last 2 years, although everybody got through it, there was a lot of the deferments and other agreements that we helped to draft with some of our owners and developers. um, that's going to cause delay. That's going to cause a loss of revenue. And my concern is that this ability to enforce things, if there's another variant or something like that, and that's nothing you can really do to stop that the courts are going to go back to the way they have been over the last 2 years, early in the pandemic, and slow things down. So that's a big concern that I've got.
Um, yeah, I that would be a concern if we couldn't enforce contracts in America. So
Right. Yeah. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, and you had that for a good, at least the first year of the pandemic. I mean, everyone, I think, who listens to this has a horror story where there's somebody out there who just wasn't paying or wasn't doing what they're supposed to do. And, you just gotta, you're always trying to figure out as the attorney, if you're doing on the litigation side, how you can use your leverage to get a solution for, the owner or your landlord in the quickest, most efficient and best possible way. And not being able to do that because of a delay, it just, it's killer. So
Yeah. For me, number two is I am concerned. So I believe that sometime in 2023, lead times on materials for construction are going to start to compress. I'm concerned I'm wrong with everything going on in China with the infrastructure bill and potentially more construction projects. The delays on HVAC or whatnot might be a new normal for a longer period of time than I might like. And so I am concerned I'm wrong that lead times are going to start to compress. I believe they will, but I was talking to some people and that could be, it depends on who you talk to when in 23 it starts to compress. But it is if we're in a new normal, you're gonna have to start to reset every project and timing and you know, we've already talked to some retailers who are working on a deal now where the retailer can't get some of the stuff for their prototypical store. And we're talking Q2 2024 delivery for them um, because of that. And we've been talking to them about that delivery date since the beginning of this year. So that's existing space. That's not a new build.
yeah,
So that's concern. That's really wild. It's a long time to satisfy a demand for today that you can't satisfy for a couple years, and who knows whether that demand is there or not. So
yeah, we've got we do some work with folks over at Lang and Engineering, and they do some marketing stuff with us, and that's one of their concerns of just the lead times. Like, is it going to get better, and when is it going to get better? And that's a real issue. I mean, if you're trying to get a center, redone, not build a new one, get redone, when are you going to be able, or, just like you said, like with the new HVAC or something, like when does that then change the route commencement date or something else, or the tenant just say to you like, I'm not paying anything, like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do on your side of things.
oh, it's crazy.
Yeah,
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 there's a lot that goes into it.
it's a huge concern.
All right, last one. It's the last one thing you're concerned you're wrong about.
Last one is, and it's more of a hopeful one. Okay, it's a hopeful one. Um, Everybody's talking about if there's going to be a recession, if there's going to, or some kind of downturn and stuff like that. What if there's not? And this kind of leads back into what you were talking about before with the rising. Are you going to miss out on something? Um, we just recently had the Deficit Reduction Act, the CHIPS bill, and stuff, all this money coming in the economy, and it's going to be coming in the economy. But interest rates are higher, inflation's higher. What if we don't go through a recession? We don't really go through a downturn. That what we have is just this higher new normal of some inflation or interest rates, but it's not a recession. And are you missing out? This kind of to you know almost goes back to what your number two one was, which was, or number one was, which is, are you missing out on something? And I think it's that, that opportunity. Are you know, what do you do to hedge to make sure that you're not missing out on that opportunity? Um, and the only way you can do it is, you look at, data points, you look at, what's going on with, the news. I mean, like when we put together like our bankruptcy watch list, we put a lot of time into going through, data, other news stories, talking to reporters at, that we know on background, like the Journal or Times or something like that, trying to get some information. And at the end of the day, it's your best educated guess to stuff. So
Yeah. Um, I probably could have done my last one in part on the other one because it's construction related as well. But my last one is I believe that construction costs are going to come down and compress slightly. Uh, what happens if they don't? Because of all the reasons that I mentioned in number two. But uh, with I don't. Someone said to me recently that construction costs are like college tuition; they never go down. Maybe labor's up now. Maybe labor's down, but steel's up. Maybe lumber's down, but labor's up. Like they never actually come down. And I think that first one would have to become a reality where rents really have to rise in order to meet the construction costs. Or there's going to be some challenges for projects in all asset classes to get underway. And, I know of some people, developers who have dropped deals because of construction costs that were like signed deals. Uh, I believe in, starting in the Q4, you could see some compression. But if you don't, and they keep, and it actually is like college tuition and they don't actually ever come down, I think that could be a challenge. Now, I think the biggest driver of that is the housing market. And as that potentially softens, that could be the catalyst for construction costs to come down. But what if it's not?
yeah, and with the housing, it's like you now have the millennial generation now stepping into, they're starting to do home buying, and it's not just start. They've already started to do it, and they've not reached their peak of it. And how does that affect the economy? How does that affect then to your retail sales, and other things like that, and your other different asset classes? Like I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and there's a steel mill in.
I got a stat on this actually.
Oh, do you? Okay,
I got a stat on this.
okay,
It's an old stat. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's directionally right. And there was a study in '04 by UPenn.
yeah,
For every 3% that home values rise, retail sales in that trade area rise by 1%.
really, huh?
You can find that it's a study it's from '04. This is before e-commerce was hot. This was before, you know, the Great Recession, the COVID pandemic. So I don't know how relevant, but I think directionally how specific. I think directionally it's probably right. But that was always a good punchline. For every 3% home values rise in a trade area, retail sales in that trade area rise about 1%. So there you go. And your millennials moving into houses and what it does to
Yeah,
retail sales.
yeah. Huh. Yeah, but I think with what you were talking about with, steel, lumber costs and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally. Like we got a big steel mill in town, and when I was growing up, they were shutting parts of it down. And now, you can't get as much stuff as you can from China with like just with all the issues of bringing stuff in. It does that, with these new investments, are you gonna see like more like either mills or things, coming back to take some of that demand. But even if they do, like you're not gonna it's not gonna happen tomorrow, you know. So I think there is a big concern about, either steel, lumber, or whatever your other raw materials are for what you need to get built. No.
Yeah. And labor too, right? Like
Yeah.
labor too. So
And I think the thing with labor that what people keep forget or there's not a lot of talk about it is you also have the baby boom generation, finally starting to retire.
yeah.
And so you've got like this huge opening of the workforce. And then, the other issue is the people who have not gone back to the workforce that aren't in the baby boom generation. Are they going back because of childcare issues? Because of family issues like older parents or something like that? Is it the pandemic? Like, is that now going to change now that we're starting to, I guess, exit the pandemic, even though it's still going on? Like, will that bring back people into the labor force? I just don't think we know right now.
Yeah. Um, I don't think we do, but we'll see. Well, listen, Tom, thank you for sharing. I appreciate your insights. This was fun. I know
Thanks
you're
for being here,
going
Chris. This is good.
I know you're going on vacation. And I am I'm jealous you'll be gone for 2 weeks in LBI. That's uh
Always available for clients, though. You can call anytime, anyone who's listening.
well, that said, that said, I want to take us to the very end of the show. Got 3 quick questions for you. Are you ready?
I am set.
All right. Question 1. What extinct retailer do you wish would come back from the dead?
Sears, but a different form.
So
And
you don't really want Sears then?
so here's the thing I really like about Sears. Okay, so I was talking about the windows that I was replacing earlier. Okay, I love going to like the tool aisle that was there at Sears and checking all that stuff. I love it.
My dad was a craftsman guy.
Yeah, and it's just my father was he was an electrician and kind of taught me and my brother and sister like certain things to do, but like we were never at his level. Like he built a back porch or like a patio, built a full one himself and my grandfather. Like I remember
Yeah.
when I was a little kid, like he did like real like construction stuff. Okay, but I always liked doing tools and stuff like that. So I think Sears, I'd love to see them come back because it's like they had everything, it's like you could go in there, you get shoes, you get clothes and stuff. Like in the 80s, it's like that was the place. And I feel bad that like no one ever figured out how like they could have been Amazon before Amazon. I mean, they had the catalog business and stuff like that. Like if they would have just figured it out, like they stopped their catalog business, I think the same year that Amazon came on the market. Like it's kind of sad. So it's like that's one retailer like I remember as a kid going there with my parents and just being like, wow, you can get anything here. And so that's probably one.
I'll give you a good anecdote. I had Steve Dennis on this show before, and he's a retail thought leader, and he was at Sears in the executive leadership in the 90s, and he had mentioned that one of the things on the table for them that they never pulled the trigger on, and I don't know how when I say on the table, I don't know if it was just in the how far along they got, but it was at least a discussion point in a room was them buying Home Depot.
Oh shit. Oh, uh,
I found that fascinating.
anybody who's got like craftsman tools, like a craftsman hammer, it's like
Yeah,
you like all it's you develop a relationship with the tool.
yeah.
So, uh,
Okay. Question 2. What is the last item over $20 you bought in a store?
paint. I went to Ace Hardware and I got paint for my windows that I didn't.
um, Perfect. Last question. Tom, if you and I were shopping at Target and I lost you, what aisle would I find you in?
I'm going to ask you a question. Which aisle do you think you'd find me
Okay.
in?
The tool section.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
Uh,
Well, listen, Tom, this was great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Chris, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Your podcasts are very insightful. A lot of fun too. I was listening to I think Danielle Brunelli was on a couple
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she was I was laughing. You asked her one of the questions about what skill you wish you had. She was talking about teacher kid math.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and now like she's like I just can't do it, and it's like I'm in the same boat with that, and I'm like I can't use that one.
So Well, listen, Tom, really appreciate it. Have a great vacation.
Thanks, Chris. Good seeing you.
You too, man.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe. See you in the next one.